Restylers and upcyclers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen and this is Jen Restyle and Fashion. This week I'm going to take you through the steps that I took to create this bustier type vest out of a men's blazer. This is the way that I'm doing it, a little unconventional. So there are a couple things that you're going to need for this project. One, a men's blazer that doesn't necessarily fit you, that has a little bit of room in it. You'll need a chalk or some soap, something to have a marking, to make a marking on the jacket. You'll need some scissors. I used elastic because that helped to hold it up for me, and I also used boning, so you're definitely going to need some boning, especially if you are larger breasted, then you're definitely going to need boning. All right, you guys, I think that's it. Let's get into it. All right, for starters, you are going to decide how long you want this bustier to be. Now for me, I wanted to use the maximum length that I had, so I cut directly under the underarms across to the back, and I already drew my line, so I made sure that it was straight across. At the last minute when I was cutting, I decided to angle up in the front. I don't know if that was the best idea, but I did it anyway because I was concerned about not having enough coverage in the bust area. If I do this again, I probably will not do that. I think it's best to just cut straight across. So here I am cutting across the back to the underarm. And make sure you get a good pair of shears. That is a problem that I ran into. I really need to replace my scissors. I recommend definitely pinning or sewing down the lining to the fabric to keep it from moving around. I used a lot of pins just to stabilize everything, and that was super helpful. I think another thing I would recommend is definitely cutting below the underarm of the jacket so that you don't have to worry about that additional curve up underneath the underarm. But definitely once you get everything cut, lay it out flat. See if it looks like what you want it to look like, and then kind of determine where you want to insert your darts or insert any pleats depending on how you want to tailor it. I tried it on and wanted to see, like, how much room do I actually have. So I turned it over on the wrong side and I went in and I just pinned it, pinching the fabric in different places just to see like how much would I need to take it in. And as you can see, you see how kind of flimsy the fabric is. That's why the boning is so important in this upcycle. Like, it's going to be your saving grace. The boning and the elastic are going to completely save you. So I turned it around to the back and I put some pins in there just to make sure that this was going to fit. And I think once I got it to where I wanted it to be, I realized that I could also take it in a little bit more on the sides. And I'm still a little unsure of this flap in the front. In my head, it looked cute and it had potential, but execution, not so much. All right, so I laid this out on the floor and looked at how it looks. And one of the things that I realized is that these tucks or pleats or whatever you want to call them look way better in the back than they do in the front. For the front, I wanted it to be a little bit more flat, and the back I wanted to have a little bit more shape. So I did go in knowing that I did need to make sure that that back portion of this bustier was going to lay in place. I know I needed to put some elastic in there. Well, I'll just tell you that this narrow elastic did not work. Not at all. The time that I spent drawing the lines, sewing it down, it didn't hold up. And I think it didn't hold up because I have larger bust. And so, yeah, we ended up taking that out. I'm trying this back on again because when I did it the first time, um, it didn't really turn out the way I like. So when I came back home from work the next day, I went in and I tried it on again and made some readjustments. So that's what you see me doing here. All right, next we're gonna go in and mark where those tucks are. I used my chalk pencil and I went in on the inside and created the darts. I did just create tucks in the front and the back first, and then I went back and did some more alterations later. I strongly suggest that every time you sew something down or connect something or create a dart or create a pleat or tuck, that you try it on right after to see where you might need to take it in a little more, because once you attach the elastic, it's going to be way more difficult to go back in and make those adjustments. So make sure that the waist fits well, make sure that the tucks and the pleats and everything are in there really good and to your liking, and then go in and add your elastic. When you try this on, you need to try it on without having on anything else up underneath, because that is going to throw the fit off, I guarantee, even with the elastic. Now, if your only plan is to wear this with a shirt, or wear it on top of something, then that's fine. But if your plan is to have it to be worn multiple ways, like you'll see me wear at the end, then I would definitely try it on with nothing underneath other than underwear, or a very, very thin layer underneath. And that way you can ensure that it is going to fit correctly. Okay, so this is just me going in, readjusting those darts and getting it done. Okay, y'all. I literally walked in the house and just dove right in. I was like, I'm not wasting any time. Let me bring this down a little bit so you can see. Okay, so I added my darts in the front. I am going to change out the buttons, and I'm going to add a buttonhole right here because I want this to really, really fit snug, because I want to be able to wear it without anything underneath. Maybe I can. Now that I'm looking at it, maybe not. The thought was to have these kind of hang over and maybe wear a shirt. I probably have to wear a shirt under it. Anyway, I'm going to add another button here, change out the buttons. I'm going to put elastic across the back to keep that in, to keep it up and make it fit better. That'll also make it fit better overall. And then I'm going to put seam binding all the way around. So I'm going to do that. I'm thinking maybe I should do that first, but I love it. I can't remember. Did I get pants to match? I don't think I did. I don't think I did get pants. Okay. So first things first, I need to figure out if I want to bring this all the way up here. I do need to put boning in here as well. So the boning will go right behind the seam, and that will keep the front up, so I don't have to be worried about that. And then the elastic is gonna go, the elastic's gonna start here underneath the underarm all the way around, but I'm gonna put the seam binding around here first. We're going to use brown seam binding, but I really like the way this has turned out. I do. I like it. And I think given that I have on clothes up underneath, this, as tight as it feels right now, is probably just the way it needs to be. So, all right, now I just have to match. I gotta match the buttonholes. That's gonna be a challenge. I've got to look for some thread in my stash, and then again, I need to change these buttons out. So, okay, so we are starting off with this double fold bias tape. I know I said seam binding, but I meant bias tape. So I'm going to use this. I feel like this color is probably the best thing to use on here. I'm not going to go out and buy more of anything. You know, I try to keep my projects within what I already have. All right, so we're going to open up this bias tape and just going to enclose the seam. Now, for here up front, I'm going to pull this up and give myself a little extra because I'm going to go back and sew this in here. So I'm not going to start sewing it until about 1 inch in because I want to trim that, stick it in, and really spend some time on that. So I'm going to go ahead and just start pinning. Since I'm going to sew this way, I can have my pins face towards me. There's a lot going on the inside. I was debating on whether or not I wanted to leave that stuff in there. I kind of feel like I want to, but I think it's best that I just cut it out. It's just really the pocket, the inside there. So I'm just going to cut this off. And then the rest of it is attached to where I sewed. So I'm just going to cut that.
Sorry, something went wrong with playback. Try again in a bit.
Y'all, Alexa's bugging. This process of placing the bias tape on top of the raw edge is something that I found made this process of creating this bustier a lot easier than trying to fold it over and hem it. The issue with that is that there are a lot of layers in men's blazers, and when you fold that over, you get that extra thickness in there that does make it difficult to manipulate. If you have suggestions on other things to use, please put them in the comments below. But I found that having this contrasting bias tape really gave me a look that I liked, and it served the purpose well. I was able to fit all of the fabric inside the fold and stitch on top with brown thread, and I had absolutely no issues with this all the way around. In fact, when I put the elastic on the inside, it gave a little ruffle effect in the back that I really liked. So sometimes you do things during upcycles and they come out unexpected. So this was one of those really good unexpected things that occurred as a result of doing this upcycle. This process does take about, I would say, 15 or 20 minutes to get it perfectly right, and that's what you see me doing here. All right, so now you see me going in using my brown thread in the sewing machine and just stitching all the way across. As I'm stitching, I'm also making sure that it's meeting on the other side. And then lastly, I'm gonna go in that corner and just tuck the bias tape inside to make a nice crisp corner right there in the front of the bustier. Eventually, I ended up tucking this in so you couldn't see it. If there's another way you'd like to finish it off, perhaps create a tie or a bow, completely up to you. And then I would tell you the second most important part of this bustier is that boning. Get that boning in there good and solid. I used a similar color thread in my bobbin, and I used brown thread on top so that I could see the stitch very well and that you could not see the stitches on the opposite side, on the good side of the fabric. I put boning in the back, in the front, and on the sides. I could have even used probably 2 more pieces of boning. So don't be stingy with that boning. It's going to help you in the end. Yeah, okay, so I just went in, I finished the boning, and then I just put a strip of elastic at the top. I just sewed it and stretched as I sewed. I forgot to turn the camera on, so I'm just showing you guys that that's what I ended up doing, just pulling, sewing, pulling. And so now we have, okay, let's just say that was an epic fail. I don't even take a picture of how bad it looked. So let's keep going. Still have to finish this front. It's going to be pulling. I'm going to try it on again. But I do need to come up with some new buttons. I need to come up with new buttons, and I also need to create a buttonhole to go in the center. I was wondering if I could maybe just put some snaps in there. Maybe I could sew snaps instead of a buttonhole, because I know I'm not going to be able to match the buttonhole exact. So maybe we'll do snaps. Maybe we'll just pin it for now for the try on and see what it looks like. Okay, y'all, well, we got caught in the rain. All right, so we need 2 buttonholes. We need one in between the main 2 that already exist. And then we need one right above. Let's try to do these buttonholes. So let me turn the camera around so you can see the wonderful selection of buttonholes. I'm gonna have to take it off the tripod. This wonderful selection of buttonholes that I have on my Opal 690. Okay. So look at here. Hopefully you guys can see, and I will zoom in a little bit. But I have all these different types of buttonholes. Now this particular buttonhole, number 29, most closely match that, right? So that's what we're trying to get it to look like. So let's try it out. All right, we are going to use this piece of muslin. So one of the nice things about my machine is that it has an automatic threader, but it has to be in precisely, the needle has to be precisely in the right place. Okay, so we're going to do number 29. So we program it to 29. And it does tell me that I need to change my foot. All right, this is the foot. So we take this one off. And this one actually plugs into a little port up under there, but it slides on the same way the other ones do. You have to make sure that the white mark is within that white area. And now we're gonna lengthen it to 18, and we're gonna see what happens. All right, so I couldn't find my bagel buttons. You know, that bagel buttons with the assorted buttons, but I did find some assorted buttons. I don't really like that one. It's got a little bear on it, but I found these 3. I can't believe those are only 3 I found. I must have put them away from myself. Now that I'm looking at these buttons, they are much smaller, but the hole looks like it could accommodate a larger. Nope. So I'm gonna need to keep it small. So this is the size I need to look for. I'm glad I looked at that. Now I do have a bunch of smaller ones, so let me see. I do not want them to match. I want to just have a variety. And I like the fact that these buttonholes don't match either. And then I also found these sew-on snaps. So if I still feel a little bulging, I'm just gonna sew the snaps on the inside. So that's what I'm gonna do, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put these buttons on here. I'm gonna re-sew the elastic, and then I'm gonna take a shower and we're gonna try this on. Look what I found. One bag of buttons. And I kept looking because I really want the raised buttons. I want the buttons that have the loop underneath. I just feel like those do so much better for me. There we go. I found another one. Now these look, I think that'll work. What do y'all think? So these are just about the same size. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut these off. Mark where they go. So that one is there. That one is there. And they're perfectly, actually that isn't actually perfect. Oh, I guess it kind of is. So we're gonna do this one. Mark that there. And then that one. And then here. All right, just gonna hand sew those.